Okay, welcome to PD6S channel. Another episode of the vlog. I'm thinking at this point I probably want a title for this thing, and I guess I've been inspired by Hashnazi's The Captain's Vlog. I want something sort of like that to call this. I don't really know what that's going to be yet. Always watch driving students carefully, and of course we pick the route that they go on. Yay! Anyway, if you guys have any ideas for the title, that throw them in the comments section. I'd love to hear them. I'm not going to throw out any of the things I'm considering because I don't want to spoil your ideas. I'm really looking for outside opinions. But something kind of along the lines of, like, not like PD6S vlog or whatever, but something like a catchy title, something that I could throw on to every one of them. Be cool. Anyway, what I want to talk about today is the SKS and the Mosin Nagant. These are two cheaper rifles here in the United States, both Russian in origin. I'm going to talk about why I love the SKS and why I'm not so in love with the Mosin Nagant. Excuse me. The SKS is, on the expensive side, $500. On the cheap side, I see them regularly, the Chinese ones, for $300. At that price point, it is a super cheap semi-automatic rifle. It's fun to shoot. It shoots cheap ammo. It has a very cool history to it. And it's fun to use, basically. You get a lot for your money with an SKS. If those were made here in the States today, it would cost probably $1,000 or better. And to that, some of you guys are saying, well, SKSs have shitty quality. Well, not really. Some of them have machining marks and shit in them. That's small potatoes, okay? They're usually made very well. Next, they're fairly accurate. They're more accurate than most AKs. I think everyone tends to agree on that. I tend to like them when they are wood stocked and have their 10-round military magazine. I'm not a big fan of the duckbill mags, and I'm not a big fan of making your SKS into something it shouldn't be, in my opinion. Basically, trying to make an AK out of it, I think, is a losing battle. You should appreciate it for what it is. However, if you're on the cheap and you have an SKS already and you want to make it more effective, a Shote side folder and some 30-round duckbill mags, if you can get them to work, they may take some fitting, but if you can get them to work, are great. I would definitely run those if that's what you got. But if you're starting from the ground up, a cheap AK may save you a lot of time and just BSing, basically. And mag cost, because when you find the steel duckbill mags anymore, they're usually more than AK mags, let's put it that way. I don't know if they're necessarily like $30-40 a piece like Mini 14 mags, but they're up there. They're at least $25 a piece, unless you get some really old junky ones. I'm talking about the old, like, Chinese ones, the good ones, essentially. There's a bunch of, like, converted AK mags and shit that you just need to stay away from. So, in short, why I love the SKS is that it's cheap, it works, you have several options of how you could use the gun, whether you want to do the good way, which is 10-round mag, wood stock, or you want to fuck it up with the Shote bullshit or some TAPCO bullshit. You know, you can do whatever you want, really. Now, after all this love for the SKS, why do I say I don't like the Mosin that much? Well, let's see what the difference is. I mean, you're shooting full power ammo, number one. More recoil in a gun that doesn't handle it well, in my opinion. I mean, if you're shooting standing up, whatever, you'll never have any problems with it, but most people tend to shoot these types of guns for groups, and that tends to be in like sitting, kneeling, or prone positions, and in those positions the Mosin will beat you up. It's just fact. Next, it's bolt action, not semi-automatic. It's a big drawback. And it's not a very good bolt action. I mean, if you had a Mauser or a Lee Enfield or something like that, it's much more pleasurable to use, in my opinion. The ammo's not as cheap. That's a good advantage the Mosin does have, is that it's fairly inexpensive, and the ammo's fairly inexpensive. But these days, Mosins in my area for an M9130 are like $200. So for $100 more, you could be using a rifle that's 60 years more advanced than a Mosin, to get an SKS. SKS is from 1945. The Mosin's from 1891. You do the math on that. It's a pretty big advancement for only $100. And you might say, well, the ammo is super cheap with the Mosin, and it's not with the SKS, but that's not true. The ammo is the same price. Now, admittedly, the Mosin, you're firing much bigger rounds. Okay, that means it's the best deal to get like a full power cartridge. And if you could get a semi-automatic gun that shoots that round for cheap, cool. But there's no semi-automatic gun that shoots those rounds that's cheap. Okay, and in my opinion, the SVT-40 is the one everybody wants. I've owned one. It sucked. Okay, I did not enjoy shooting that gun at all. It was a hot-rodded gun, in my opinion. It was only a matter of time before that thing hurt somebody. It may have just been my gun and the way the gas settings were on it and whatever, but it felt like the damn thing was like going to explode at any minute. So I moved along, got something else. The AKs that shoot that round are kind of interesting, but they're expensive and now hard to find. Just in general, back to the Mosin Nagant, it's not that great a rifle. Is it cheap? Yeah, it's cheap. And I like it because it's cheap. I've owned like 20 or 30 Mosins. I've shot, maybe 5 of them because they are not fun to shoot. Now, if you just want to go blasting at the range, standing position, shooting pop cans at 25 yards or something like that with full power ammo, yeah, that's fun. But otherwise, it doesn't do much for the amount of money it costs. If they were $100, I would be a lot more lenient on it. But the fact of the matter is, they aren't $100 anymore. They are more like $200. Now, admittedly, I do still own a Mosin Nagant, and the Mosin Nagant I own is a PU Sniper, which I paid $550 for, and I think is a total steal. It's one of the AIM surplus guns, but it has a real World War II PU sniper scope and has real World War II PU sniper markings. So, as far as I'm concerned, it may be a re-arsenal, but it's the real deal for $500. That is worth owning. It's kind of cool, fun, history-wise. And I've only shot the gun twice. Why? Because Mosins aren't fun to shoot. Back to that whole thing again. You know, K98 Mausers aren't really fun to shoot either. Neither are fucking Lee Enfields. Well, I think Lee Enfields are pretty fun to shoot, actually. They're an exception, I guess. And that's just because I like British guns, and it has a high cap mag, and you can do mad minute shit with it, and okay, that's kind of cool. I hope this doesn't dead end. Anyway, so I'm not just picking on the Mosin. It's just bolt action guns in general are not as fun as semi-automatic guns. And to pay, you know, 2/3 of what an SKS costs to get a Mosin, this is not a wise expenditure in my mind. This coming from the person who spent $500 on a Mosin. I know what you're thinking, but you know, the PU Sniper has an X factor about it. It is worth more than a normal Mosin. Anyone will admit that. And it's got that whole enemy of the gates vibe going for it, which is pretty cool. The only real reason I could see to get a Mosin is because it's all you could afford, or you want to shoot cheap full power ammo and have ammo availability when everything else is gone. 7.62 by 54R was one of the few rounds that was left in abundance when the shelves got cleared in 2013. You know, into 2012 with that whole Sandy Hook thing. Like, the only ammo left, rifle-wise, was 7.62 by 54R in my area. Other than, like, you know, typical hunting loads and stuff, you know, those were safe. You know, 30-06 expanding bullets that cost, you know, $2 a piece, those were safe. But as far as, you know, cheap plinking ammo goes, the only thing left was Mosin ammo. So I'm not saying don't buy one, I'm just saying if you're on a tight budget and you're looking to get fun stuff for not a lot of money, I would save up your money and buy something other than a Mosin gun. Unless you can get one for like less than $100, then, you know, go ahead. And I've done that several times. I think the cheapest I ever paid for a Mosin was like $50. And at that point, it's a gun for $50, you know? It's hard to argue with that, really. But, you know, when a cheap AK, you know, like a, I was gonna say Wasser 10, but really that's not even an option anymore. Like the inner ordnance shit, you might get a good one. Those are like, you know, $4.69 on AIM Surplus. Okay. And SKS, you know, an old beat up Chinese one at a gun show, maybe $300. Those are more fun for not a whole lot more money. And it's kind of my whole philosophy with guns is that if you have to save up for an extra month or two to get a gun that you really want versus a gun that you can afford, do it. Because chances are good that you are not going, that you are not going to buy another gun for a while if you're on that tight of a budget. So you should get something that you really like. It's like handgun wise, you know. I tell people all the time, don't buy a high point, save up and buy a Glock. It's the same kind of thing. One second. You jackass. That was tight. Anyway, had some dramatic tension, almost getting hit in traffic. Fucking Tulsa. Anyway, I don't even remember where I was. I think I was talking about, oh yeah, buying the Glock. A high point right now is like $200. A police surplus Glock 22 is like $350. It's not that big of a jump to go save up and get a Glock 22. I'm not a big 40 cal fan, but a Glock 22 can be had much cheaper than a Glock 17 these days. And, you know, honestly, a Glock in 40 is better than a high point in 9mm any day of the week. And that's kind of my philosophy on the rifle thing too. You know, really, you could get an AR-15 these days for SKS money. You know, there are kits and receivers available out there that, you know, make an AR-15, you know, a $400 or $500 rifle. So you could go that option too, and I think everyone would pretty much agree that an AR-15 is an incredibly fun gun. Like, damn near top of the mark. For, you know, just about twice the money a Mosin is. And the thing that really kills me about people who own Mosins is basically, if you own one Mosin, you probably own 10 Mosins. That's just a generality, but I know lots of people who are fucking broke as shit, and they have a Mosin collection because that's what they buy every time they get enough money together to buy a gun. That's kind of stupid. Buy one Mosin and then go buy, you know, a Glock and an AR-15 and an SKS and AK-47. You know, if you have 10 Mosins, you could almost buy every gun I just listed and a Mosin. And you're gonna say, well, you could arm a whole bunch of people with Mosins. Yeah, and one dude with an AK would be a match for all of them. Okay, that's my whole thing with, you know, people who think, you know, it's gonna be $100 defensive rifle. No, it's not. Honestly, if you want a cheap defensive gun and you're gonna go, you know, manual action anyway, get a shotgun. A pump action shotgun is a much better weapon than a Mosin Nagant. And again, just my 2 cents. And it depends on what range you're talking about. If you're gonna be shooting at 300 yards, Mosin's much better than a shotgun, obviously, but civilian world, we're talking about inside a house, a Mosin Nagant is virtually useless. And don't even get me started on the whole Orbez Mosin or whatever it is, the little cut off Mosin Nagants. I'm not a fan. Okay, I think I've rambled on now enough about hating the Mosin. I don't really hate Mosins. I don't think it's a very good gun for the amount of money spent. You know, when for the same $200 you could get, I don't know, a Mossberg 500, much better gun. What else is out there for $200? A bunch of 22s. You can get a used Ruger 1022 at a gun show for $200 pretty easily. High point. If you gave me, I'm gonna buy a Mosin or a High Point, I would tell you to buy the High Point. It's not a good gun either, but it's, you know, a more defensive gun for the same amount of money. And it's also more fun to shoot because it's semi-automatic. And that's pretty much the premise of this video, is that semi-automatic guns are more fun to shoot. And if you notice, this is like the second or third cop we've passed in this neighborhood. So apparently, you know, this neighborhood is relatively safe because of all the cops that live here. Usually cops tend to pick halfway decent, cheap neighborhoods to live in. Just FYI. Anyway, I hope someone found this somewhat useful, and please go buy an SKS, and please, if you're gonna buy a Mosin, own a bunch of other guns first. It's not a first gun. It's like a fifth or sixth gun, in my opinion. If you need a decent long gun for cheap, get a Mosin. If, you know, this is your first gun purchase, buy a shotgun or an SKS. I'll see you guys later. Be sure to thumbs up the video and subscribe to the channel. And be sure to leave a comment below saying what name you think the vlog should have, or podcast, or whatever this is going to end up being. I really don't know yet, so I would love to hear any ideas you guys have. I'll see you guys later.